Welcome to the first episode of the Brownie Knits podcast. I am Gina, Brownie Knits, as you can see on my handy dandy banner. This is Kennedy, otherwise known as Kiki. It's her nickname, so she'll answer to both. And you probably will see her and her doggy sibling Riley every now and then on the podcast. We'll go ahead and let her outside because she likes to sit in on conference calls while my husband works during the week from his home office. So she's made many appearances and is well known around the world. Anyway, like I said, I'm Gina, and I got into watching podcasts at the encouragement of a few knitter friends and really fell in love with watching the Bakery Bears, among other podcasts. And I kind of debated for a long time on whether or not I was going to have my own podcast or not. And the same knitter friends encouraged me to do so. And I kept thinking, well, who would want to listen to me, what I have to say? Like, I don't, I'm just a knitter and a crocheter. And I'm, anyway, all those doubts that creep in your mind. But anyway, I really love to design knits and crochets. And one of my favorite things to design and make are afghans and blankets. And I thought, what if I launched a block blanket for 2015 and put up a free block every month in 2015 on my website, BrownieKnits.com. Then, yeah, maybe that would be a good reason to start a podcast. So that's why I'm doing it. So it's October 9th, 2014 right now when I'm recording. It'll probably be a little bit later than that by the time we get this edited and put up. But I'm hoping that you will plan on joining us in January when we start doing the block blanket for free. You'll get it for free. So each month, the pattern will come out on BrownieKnits.com, and you can download it and take your time knitting your block. And by the end of next year, we'll have 12 blocks. Right now, I'm planning them to be 12 inches by 12 inches. They are all knitted, no crochet, and they're kind of, I would say, adventurous beginner to intermediate, and you could juggle some of them around if you're a beginner and you come across one that is a little more intimidating to you. You could wait and do that one a little bit later if you wanted to. But when I first learned how to knit, a block blanket was the first thing I did, and I just loved it. And I knitted each month with my closest gal pal, who is also a knitter. And at the time, my mother-in-law was also making a lot of knitting, knitted objects. So we would knit together, and I remember knitting with her in the back seat when we helped to move my brother-in-law and sister-in-law from Indiana to St. Louis. So it's been quite a long time, but I still knit blankets a lot. I have a lot of blankets that I've designed, and you can see in Ravelry as Brownie Knits. You can see my patterns are all available through there and through BrownieKnits.com. So anyway, that's why I'm launching it. And a little bit about myself. I have 2 dogs, and I live in Indiana in the Midwest. And I went to IU Bloomington for my undergrad and had a journalism major. So I am a lifelong Hoosier, go IU, and I worked in publishing for a lot of years, 15 some years, and did all kinds of things. I created the indexes that you find at the back of books. I did some proofreading, I did editing, and I was a managing editor for the majority of that time. So as I was going along in my corporate career that I'd really wanted all my life, that I'd worked for all my life, I fell in love with knitting and decided I really, I would work all day and be really stressed out, and then I would just be thinking about how much I wanted to knit at night. And so gradually I started getting more and more into the yarn world, and I got a part-time job at a local yarn shop that we had here for several years, and I taught there a little bit, and I started designing and publishing my own patterns. So I went to the publishing house, and I ended up being able to switch my job there to a part-time position, and did that for a few years, and then decided I really want to do this knitting thing full-time. So now I spend my days every day knitting and crocheting, and some of that is knitting things for fun, some of that is designing, some of it is tech editing other people's designs, or test knitting or test crocheting for other designers. So I keep my days pretty full with all of that lovely yarn work. And I think sometimes my family and friends who don't knit might think I'm a little crazy and, oh, be quiet about that yarn stuff. But that's what I love to do. I also really, really, really love to read, and I love TV. And I know TV rotting your brain and all that, but when you're sitting and you're knitting and crocheting all day, I have a really hard time listening to audiobooks. I can't keep my attention focused, but I can on television. So I spend a lot of time sitting and working and watching TV. So Netflix and I are great friends. So you will probably hear me talk about some TV shows or make television references throughout my podcast, but hopefully maybe in the future we can do some kind of like blog giveaway, guess the TV reference or something like that. So what else? Let's see. I thought that I would share some recent projects with you. I mostly do knit and crochet, but every now and then another craft will appeal to me, and I will pick that up and do that. Usually my husband works from home during the week, but he also teaches at a university, and right now he's also a aspiring crime writer. So right now he's also doing an academy thing through our local police department where the citizens can go and sign up and learn everything. So there are a couple nights a week right now where I have some just me time, and I've been doing other projects outside of knitting and crochet. Sewing and I don't really get along, so it really drives me nuts when people who don't know how to knit or crochet say, "Oh, what did you sew?" I don't sew. I try every now and then, but I'm a disaster at sewing. So anyway, but one thing I went with a couple of my friends to the Wool Gathering in Yellow Springs, I think that's the name of the town, Ohio, last few weeks back, and none of us bought any yarn. We all bought these wonderful baskets, and then I found a little needle-felted pumpkin kit. And around my house in October and November, you can find a pumpkin in every room. I just absolutely love pumpkin. It's my favorite fall decoration. So I picked up this little needle felting kit from, I think the company was Sheared Bliss, and I think you can find her needle felting online. And it had enough roving to do these little bitty pumpkins. So it had the orange roving and some cream roving, and I think it had green or brown. I can't quite remember which one. And then it had 2 different needle sizes for you, and a little foam board to needle felt with, and the instructions. And I have done some needle felting in the past. But even if I hadn't, you would be able to make this. This is very easy. The hardest thing about needle felting is just not poking yourself, because they're really, really sharp and you can really do some damage to your fingers. But I ended up making quite a few little pumpkins out of the little kit. And I thought it was really fun. You kind of mold your pumpkin first and get it into a ball, and then shape the lines per the pattern, and then you make these your little stem and leaves, and then felt those on. And so I made a few. This was the very first one that I did, and I'm still getting used to this camera stuff, so you have to excuse me. But this is a a little bitty one. He was kind of taller, and I really liked his, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I really liked his little leaf. So I made a bunch of them. And because I'm a designer, I actually am a member of TNNA, which is the National Needle Arts Association, and I went to TNNA in Indianapolis earlier this year, and I had a little packet of free roving from one of the yarn companies, so I ended up needle felting an additional like 6 little bitty pumpkins from what I just showed, and I took them up to, we were visiting with my in-laws, and I took them to show my mother-in-law. And she said, oh, I've been, getting rid of some stuff, and I have this bag of roving that I didn't use when I was trying to learn how to do drop spindle, and take it, just take it. So I took it and said, thank you, Diane. And I brought it home, and I made it into a huge, you can see it's like as big as my head, a huge pumpkin. And I really like white pumpkins. I think they're kind of fun. And so I used the whole bag of roving. I think it was a ½ bag of roving to make the pumpkin, just using the same instructions that I got from Sheared Bliss. I'd really recommend getting, the kit was very inexpensive, and you can use those needles and stuff over and over again as long as you're careful. And then I thought, well, I don't really have any other roving because I'd used up all of my roving because I'm not a spinner. So I went into the closet and I found some 100% wool non-superwash yarn and thought, oh, I'll just, you felt with yarn all the time, so I'll just give that a shot. So I took some Knit Picks wool of the Andes and I laid it out, just stringed it out into this big glob on the felt board and felted them until they came into the shapes for the leaves and the stem. And you could see on the stem there that, I left some of the lines showing because it kind of gave it like a veiny look that, things in nature have. And the leaves kind of have a little bit of texture to them, a lot of texture to them actually. And then I just needle felted them into place. And so this is the big white boo pumpkin. And so now you can find this in the house too. So I just keep adding to my pumpkin collection. I think my husband's probably like, hold off. I did, in all fairness, I did like kind of downsize some of them last fall, but I'm sure I've more than replaced them this fall. So anyway, that was one of the projects that I just finished up. Another project I just finished I finished these last night actually, are these, and they're not blocked yet, these zebra socks. So this is from Regia, and it's a zebra print, so they actually, you don't have to create the stripes. It does it all on its own. And this was the first pair of socks that I did using, doing a toe up method with an afterthought heel. So this particular one is, I'll put it in the show notes. I believe it was a free one. I just went on Ravelry and did a search for toe up socks, and it was like the vanilla toe up sock. And I wanted to do it for a couple different reasons. One, I mentioned my mother-in-law and I were talking, and she wanted me to bring up a pair of toe up socks. So I was like, well, I've been meaning to do that anyway, so I casted them on. But two, I also wanted to do toe up with an afterthought heel where you put in the waste yarn to hold your stitches and then pick it up and do the afterthought heel, so that I could get an exact count on how many rows it takes me to do a sock for me minus the heel. The reason I wanted to do this is because I recently made a Cracker Jack cowl for my husband, and that is also a free pattern that you can get in Ravelry. And the idea of Cracker Jack is that you assign yarn and colors of yarn, 4 different colors, to baseball games. So you pick your favorite team, pick out your 4 colors of yarn. Uh-oh, I just went to a blank screen. I'm not sure how that will work. Well, hopefully he'll just edit that out. Anyway, you pick out your colors of yarn, and your baseball team can usually help you determine those. And you do, this one's going to be home win, this one's going to be home loss, away win, away loss. And then you figure out how long you want your cowl to be, how big your gauge is, how many rows you get to an inch, and divide the, you know, do all the math. It's in the free pattern. It's not hard. I'm making it sound hard, but it's not. And then it will tell you how many rows you need to work per game. So if his favorite team is the Tampa Bay Rays, and if the Rays won at home, then I knit 2 rows in Betty Draper Blue. And if they lost, then I knitted 2 rows in Farmhouse White, which I kind of thought was appropriate that it was named Farmhouse White for baseball. But anyway, I am a huge IU basketball fan, college basketball fan in general, mostly the Big Ten though. And so I wanted to do a Cracker Jack type of thing for me for when the IU basketball season starts. But I didn't really want to do another cowl, and you'll find out later why. So I thought, what if I do socks? So that's why I did this pair. So I could count up my number of rows that it takes for my foot, and then I can say how many games does the team play, and I can divide that out and figure out how many rows I need to work. I figured out the other day I think I need 8 rows. I'm only going to do 2 colors, my cream and crimson for my university, and so if they win, I'll do 8 rows in probably red, and if they lose, I'll do 8 rows in the cream. And then my afterthought heel, I'll do 1 in one color and 1 in the other. So that is one of the reasons, well, 2 I guess, trying the different techniques, figuring out for my IU socks going forward. The other reason I wanted to make these, and I'll talk a lot more about this in the second podcast, because we'll be going into November then. But not really a zebra girl. But last year in December, after going to the doctor a lot over 5 years complaining of abdominal pains, I ended up in the emergency room and had yet another CT. And I really just thought they were going to tell me what they've been telling me for 5 years, that they couldn't find anything, because I'd had a lot of CTs, a lot of MRIs. And much to my shock, the doctor came in and said, we know, the good news is we know what's causing your pain and we can get it out. The bad news is that you have a tumor, and I think it's a carcinoid tumor, which is a neuroendocrine tumor. And they're really hard to find. They're really rare. A lot of my doctors have since told me that they hadn't even heard of it. The last time that they'd heard of these types of tumors was in medical school. So every time I go in any kind of doctor, even my eye doctor, they want to talk about it a lot, and I don't always want to talk about it. But anyway, the ribbon, so to speak, for neuroendocrine tumors and cancer, and carcinoid cancer, is a zebra. So in November, on November 10th, I believe it is Net Awareness Day, and so I'll be wearing my zebra socks that day. So anyway, I will talk about neuroendocrine tumors and carcinoids a little bit more in a future episode, just to help bring awareness, but I don't really want it to be a huge focus of my podcast, because I really try to, just now that I'm not in pain every day, I just try to live without thinking too much about it. So I really should have brought, I apologize that I didn't think to bring the Cracker Jack cowl in with me. I'll do that next time, or maybe in our little segment that we have later, where we're going to be out and about in the Hoosier state. I might make my husband wear his Cracker Jack cowl that day so that you guys can see it. But I mentioned too that I didn't want to make, when I was planning out my IU basketball socks, I didn't want to make another cowl. And I have nothing against cowls. I love them. Love them. Wear cowls and infinity scarves all the time. all year. But I just finished designing quite a few and test knitting some, and I made the Cracker Jack. And for those of you who don't follow baseball, it starts in like April and it just finished the regular season. So it's not like, you know, just a few games. It's a lot of games. But anyway, one of the things I designed, one of the cows I just designed is this cowl that I'm wearing. This is the Delphia Cowl, and this was a lot of fun. I'll take it off here so you can see. The Delphia Cowl is knit in a tube. So you can see it goes, you know, all the way around. So there's not really a right side and wrong side. And it's knitted, it's stranded work in a tube. So you get, in the pattern, you get a chart that tells you, you know, when to change colors and all of that kind of stuff. You just knit, 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 stranding it as you go. And then you graft the two ends together. And it's really fun because you can do different color combinations. You can do them, they look good on guys and girls. And they're just fun. And I'm really addicted to plaid right now. And plaid is just such a huge trend too. If you go out to any of the shops, it's kind of everywhere and lots of fun. And it's also very popular right now with Outlander, which I love. I've consumed that on Stars. And can you believe we have to wait until next spring or something? Like late spring or yeah, April or something. I don't know. I might have to rewatch the first episodes over again. And I didn't read the books, but I really, really loved the series. So anyway, so this is the Delphia Cowl, and you can get this on Ravelry. You can get it from my website, BrownieKnits.com. I also sell on Etsy, so I have my Brownie Knits shop on Etsy. And this particular pattern you can also get from knitpicks.com. And there is charting, but don't let the charting scare you because it's all knitted in stockinette, and the chart simply tells you what color to use. So even if you haven't done a chart before, I promise you know, it's knitted in the round, so you read it from right to left on every row. And in this case, you're knitting every stitch, so you just have to worry about what color it's telling you to use. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun to design. And as I was designing it, which happens a lot when I design, I will have an initial idea and do something, and then as I'm making that project, I'll think, this would make a great whatever. And that's how this stocking came to be. And in addition to loving TV and knitting and crocheting and yarn and pumpkins, I love stockings. They're my favorite part of Christmas. And I actually made a stocking for each of, I don't have children, I should have said that in the beginning, I guess, but I have 3 nephews and a niece. And when each of them were born, I made them a stocking, and Santa fills it every year at our house and makes it to them, and then it comes back to us, and we fill it again the next year. And then my plan initially when they were born and I made these was to then on their when they turned 18, they could keep it and, you know, take it with them, and hopefully it would mean, you know, they'd remember it and think, oh, Aunt Gina and Uncle Patrick. But I don't know, 18's coming really fast for some of them. I mean, they're still, yeah, I know, like, they're not even teenagers yet, but I'm thinking it's not that far away. But anyway, that's why this stocking is so big, because I love, the bigger the stocking, the more gifts you can get, right? So I took this plaid pattern and turned it into this stocking. So this is the Madras plaid stocking, and it's a little more advanced. I would say, you know, if you're a beginner and you want to make it, maybe you have a experienced friend who helps you along, because it does use all the techniques you would in a normal sock, in addition to the stranded plaid work. But you start here at the top with this I-cord, and then you pick up from the I-cord and work down, and you do, I designed it so that your heel and your toe are knit in a solid color, so it was easier for you to knit that way. Both of these, by the way, that I'm modeling are out of Barocco Vintage, which worsted, which I really love to use because a lot of times I'm making items for friends or family, and I also sell my made design items custom request on my Etsy site. And not all of those people know how to or want to deal with washing wool. And especially if you're going to wear something, you want it soft. So I really like how vintage performs in terms of wash and wear. And I also like the stitch definition and the color options that you get. So I really, really enjoy working with Barocco. Now, both of these patterns, actually, the Madras and the Delphia, are available on knitpicks.com. And I did samples for them out of their Swish Worsted, which is, I believe it's 100% merino superwash. So soft, and it behaved incredibly well in blocking out for these patterns. So if you are looking for a one-stop shop, you can click on Knitpicks and get the pattern and the yarn and needles and everything that you would need. And you can always contact me on the Ravelry board. I have a Brownie Knits Ravelry board, and feel free to ask me questions in Ravelry, or talk in the Ravelry comments, Brownie Knits board. So anyway, so those are recent projects that I just spent a lot of time doing. Other things I'm working on, I can't really show you because I do a fair amount of, I hate it when I say that, I do a fair amount of test knitting and test crocheting for another company and other designers. And I can't share those until they're all released. So, it might be quite some time before I'm able to show you those. But it's fun. And if you are a independent designer and you're looking for somebody to tech edit or test knit for you, if you go to BrownieKnits.com, I have all of the services that I have available are listed out there. And I try to keep my tech editing prices especially really low because I worked in publishing for so long, so I do have quite a bit of experience in editing, and I'm also an independent designer, and I know how hard it is to make a buck off of those patterns, and you don't want to spend it all on your getting the pattern out in the first place, but you want to make sure that it's a good pattern and well written, and so I do keep my prices fairly low. I didn't mean for that to go into be a plug, by the way, but the other pattern that is just coming out, so it actually, my plan as of the 9th is to release this the day that, release this new pattern the day that I release the podcast, so we'll see if that all works out or not, is this little cowl. Remember I said I've been working on a lot of cowls, and this is called the Button Up Honey Cowl, and it's button up is because of this stockinette panel that you have here with the buttons. It's kind of hard to see. There you go. Kind of rainy and overcast here today. But it's a faux panel, so they don't actually have buttonholes and stuff like that. You just have a stockinette panel here when you're knitting in the round. This area is stockinette, and then you put the buttons on. And the honey part of the name comes from this honeycomb pattern that is in the body of the cowl. So you do this ribbing, this honeycomb pattern with your stockinette panel, and then more ribbing, and get this cute little cowl. And this one is, the pattern will have instructions for both fingering weight and DK weight. So this one's out of fingering weight. It's Knitpicks Stroll. The variegated's I believe called Hayride. I thought that was appropriate for fall. And then the secondary color, the contrast color of purple, take it back off again, is out of their, I believe it's their Bear Stroll no, they're Stroll Tweed. So it's a sock yarn. It doesn't have a huge amount of tweed to it, which for this worked out really well. And then this one is a DK weight, and this is the one that my husband wears. And it's really dark and hard to see. It is out of Madeline Tosh, Tosh DK. Two different colors of that. One variegated, Badlands, I believe is the name of the variegated, and the solid is Onyx. It's a black with a few flecks in it. But that's I wish you could see that better. Oh, where's the light? The button-up honeycomb cowl. Button-up honey cowl, sorry. There you can see it a little bit better. And I have just the right knack for selecting yarns to do a sample out of where they discontinue the colors. So Badlands, I believe, is a discontinued color. At least I had a couple people tell me that. That said, I have been able to find it online. So, you know, but you don't have to make it out of the same color. Like, that's the whole fun of knitting. Like, you make it your own. And I happened to make it out of this one because those were the colors that my husband picked at the yarn shop, and that's what they had, and I liked it, and it's Madeline Tosh, so you can't go wrong. So that's kind of like what's in my knitting bag and what I'm working on, and hopefully we have a little section in this podcast of Patrick and I at the pumpkin patch. I said I love pumpkins, and going to the pumpkin patch each fall is something that we love to do together, and we have a couple favorite ones, so I'm not sure which one we're going to go to on Saturday, but through the magic of video, you'll be seeing it in this podcast. And it might, to me, it seems a little cheesy to include it, but one of the things I like about watching podcasts from those overseas or outside of where I live is seeing what they do and seeing, things that are new to me. So it seems cheesy to me to show you the pumpkin patch because we do it every year, but it's something I love, and we do it every year because we love it. So I thought you guys might enjoy seeing a little bit of the Midwestern pumpkin patch. Hi everybody, here we are at the pumpkin patch. And this is the entrance, and they put all the gorgeous pumpkins, well, not all of them, but all of them that they picked out here in case you just want to buy one at the entrance and go on. But the fun part about the pumpkin patch is going in and seeing all the fun things that they have. And they always have all these gourds and everything up front. And I just really love all the colors with the mums and all the fall colors. And isn't it beautiful? It's just beautiful. And they always have all the, like a little playground area for the kids. Some teeter-totters and things like that. So after we made our way through here, we came across the Tic Tac Fun board, and it's just like tic-tac-toe. You want to get 3 in a row, and they have these funny Halloween socks filled with beans that you throw. So we had a very unsuccessful little game of tic-tac-toe because we ended in a tie. You can see Patrick gets 2 in a row here in a second, and I'm the solid black socks, and he's the colorful ones. And we ended that and went into the corn maze. Corn was really tall this year. I'm also very short, so we were in there for like 20-25 minutes. Never found one of the poles that we were supposed to be searching for. And they don't keep track of how many people go in, so I don't know how they know if we all get out at night. So we just made our way back, went and picked our pumpkins. You go on a little hayride out to the pumpkin patch, and there's my pumpkin. The other thing I wanted to mention is I want to encourage you guys to come over and join the Brownie Knits Ravelry board. And I'm going to start a thread where we can do introductions. So I hope you'll join the group and introduce yourself. And I'm planning to do a giveaway. So anybody who joins the group and does an introduction on the link will be registered for the giveaway. And then in episode 2, I'll let you know who the winner is. And we'll have a nice little fun package of knitterly yarny items for you. And what else? Anything else? I think that's probably good for now. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much, and I'd love to hear from you and meet some of you, and become Ravelry friends, and just have some new experiences. Get exposed to other patterns that maybe I haven't noticed yet. I'm really bad about that. I have my knitter friends that I keep referencing are Christina of A Knitter's Life and my friend Carle, and they are really good at seeing new things that are out there, and so I learn a lot from them, and I really try to make an effort to notice things and chat with them back, and they're really good about patterns and yarn, and I'm really good about bags. As much as I love TV and knitting, I also am addicted to bags, and my favorite project bag site, by the way, is Bird Leg Bags, and you can find them on Etsy. They also sell through a store in Fort Wayne, Indiana called Simply Socks, and which is, if you ever get a chance to go to Simply Socks, it's wonderful, but they also have a great online shop too. So anyway, I would love to hear whatever you guys want to chat about, and yeah, so it was nice to meet all of you, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye!